Welcome to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe, and I'm here with the co-host
You
CGO or George. We're releasing this on the 1st of April, 2026. And just a quick reminder, please like us, subscribe us. We release every day, long form YouTube, short form on Instagram, TikTok, and other platforms. A lot of news today. Probably the biggest thing was that Arne Slot's contract was extended. This is unexpected. He's had a really poor season, and that Liverpool extended him. They announced that they are not going after Alonso. On top of that, there's a lot of rumors going around that Pep Guardiola is stepping down at Manchester City. He has been there 9-10 years, I believe. He's had poor seasons the last 2 seasons, and this is not unexpected either. There's been rumors about this for a while, and finally, it is April Fool's Day, and both of those things are not true. But in real news today, there was 4 UEFA qualifiers. Bosnia beat Italy, and there was a red card early in that game, and Bosnia was able to win that game on penalties. Czech Republic beat Denmark today, surprising both George and I. Sweden beat Poland. Victor Gyökeres scored a great goal, very exciting towards the end of that game to win that 3-2. Turkey beat Kosovo to qualify for the World Cup. Beat Jamaica, and Roberto De Zerbi was appointed officially the head of Tottenham, manager of Tottenham Hotspur. So, George, a lot today. Let's start with Bosnia over Italy. Red card, George. I feel like this was one of the most dumbest decisions I've seen. Did you see the red card? What were your thoughts?
honestly, Alexandra Bastoni, let me say, let down his teammates because stopping a goal scoring opportunity, we all know what that will be. Definitely is going to be a red card. So himself, when you look at his countenance after the incidents, you know that he felt the guilt. There was no point for that. It would have been better they even equalize, and then you try to fight, at least play 11 against 11. You still have a chance. But when you are playing against one man down, against a team that is playing at home, that's more pressure for the Italians. And that was what really happened to them today. And that one man down changed the whole dynamics of the game, which affected the Italian teams. If not, it would have been a game they would have won. Unfortunately, the red card messed everything up for them.
Yeah. I mean, they still didn't play bad. I mean, of course, it changed the game. You would expect them to dominate possession. I mean, it was still a more or less an even game and ended up on penalties. So, unfortunately for Italy, I think Bastoni, though, that was just such an awful challenge. First off, the player, it was a denial of a goal scoring opportunity. All goal scoring opportunities are not created equal. This guy was wide of net. The keeper had a good position. Donnarumma is exceptional. It was early in the game. This was not a 90. If this is a 90th minute and you're up 1-0, you take that red card to qualify for the World Cup. This was very early in the game. I felt like just so dumb.
I think in the 41st minute, that was the
41st?
first half.
Yeah, so he had no chance at the ball. He did not play the ball. It was just, I don't know. I think it was just so boneheaded of a decision from him.
It was a careless challenge. For me, it wasn't necessary.
No, but credit to Bosnia for going through the penalties. I think that this was definitely an upset, and they are excited for a World Cup. I've said this before, I love how Edin Dzeko, if you ask him what their goal is for the World Cup, he's going to say, our goal is to win it. I do feel like it is healthy as players to have that mentality, even if it's not necessarily realistic, but I love that mentality. I love that attitude.
No, the good thing for Dzeko is that he'll be playing his second World Cup, because this is the second time Bosnia will be qualifying for the World Cup. I think the first time they were at the World Cup was, I think, 2014 World Cup, and then this is the second time they are going. So it's been quite a long time they've featured at the World Cup. So this is a good one for them. And sadly for the Italians, they'll be missing the World Cup third time in a row, which is a very sad one for them. So
again, George, like I said yesterday, I mean, I would rather have Italy's last 15 years than most other countries. They did win a Euro, which is not a World Cup, but it is a major tournament. And they, it happens. But it is somewhat embarrassing them missing 3 World Cups. But they did get a Euro out of that. They made another Euro final, which they got completely embarrassed in since their last World Cup. So very interesting. George, real quick, let's move on. Sweden 3-2 Poland. Did you see the Gyökeres goal at the end to win it?
It was a goal mouth scramble, and he
Of
was
course,
able to
yeah.
get the ball into the back of the net, which was a very, very important goal for them. 88-minute goal, which has qualified Sweden to the World Cup. So the funny thing is that when you look at the way Sweden qualified for this World Cup, it's a bit funny because for a team that played during the qualifiers and finished bottom of the table with without winning a game. And then I think by the privilege of doing well in the UEFA Nations League 2024-2025 season, we're opportuned to play the playoff. And then you can see the way everything turned out. Apart from that, good one for Graham Potter. I remember he was appointed as the coach of Sweden. That was October of 2025 because of the poor results Sweden were having during the qualifiers. So for me, it's a plus for him, at least qualifying the team for the World Cup. That would boost his CV because we knew what Graham Potter his performance at West Ham was a very terrible performance. So credit must also go to the to the Swedish FA for having confidence that he can help them
Yeah.
at least get them
He
to
is a
the
big
stage.
name. I mean, he's shown, he's had success in Sweden in the past. I think he took a team from like 6th tier to top tier and qualified them for Europe for the first time. And I know that his time at Brighton is great. So good for him. I think from what I saw, Bergvall played very well. I mean, again, I've said he's a young kid with talent. I'd be excited to see him in a squad that's not Tottenham or a squad that has some sort of positivity. George, what about Czechia, Denmark? This game ended 2-2 and ended on penalties, I believe.
Yes.
This is also somewhat surprising. I think that we both thought yesterday that Denmark would win. Denmark probably has more talent. Czechia was at home, and Czechia certainly has a couple players, the top clubs, but not as many as Denmark. I do think my boy Matthias Jensen missed a penalty in the shootout. He is usually cool as a cucumber. Did you were you able to see any of this game, George?
Honestly, I will tell you, I was surprised that the Danish team couldn't get victory in this game. If you look at the game, you observe that they played very well. Unfortunately for them, they met a very solid Czechia defense. They couldn't really penetrate much. But if you look at the way they played well. And I think the Czechia team were already prepared for them. And I guess they were also prepared in case the game goes to penalty. You will see that the Czechia team looked more prepared in the penalty shootout compared to the Danish team. The Danish team didn't look like that team that were really prepared to play penalty shootout today. And you will see it in the way they play. Apart from Christian Eriksen, who played a very beautiful penalty, I think the rest of the Danish team, their penalty was so poor, if you ask me.
Matthias
So
Hansen is usually cool as a cucumber. I will say I was looking at Denmark's like qualifying, and they were kind of the opposite of Sweden. They were doing very well. They needed 2 points from 2 games against Scotland and Belarus, and they lost. I think they made a draw. They got 1 point, I think, out of 6. So they were in a very strong position just 3 games ago. It was almost unthinkable that they'd even not have to miss automatic qualification, and they did. And then they faced 2 weaker teams. They beat one, and then they lost here to a team that, on paper at least, is weaker. So very disappointing from them. Very opposite of Sweden. They had every opportunity to advance, and Czechia, credit to them for being prepared, being organized.
no, they'll be very happy because the last time they were at the World Cup was 2006. So that's 20 years ago. So coming to future at the World Cup after 20 years, that's something they'll be very proud of. And at least I'm happy the likes of Sushek, who plays for West Ham, and the likes of Patrick Schick, at least they'll have the opportunity to showcase their talent at the World Cup. So it's a good one for them. Even though every one of us were thinking that Denmark will most likely go through. But
Yeah.
in football, surprises like
Anything
this
can
normally
happen.
happen. Yeah.
George, Kosovo versus Turkey. There was a goal early in the second half by Turkey. I actually did not see any of this game. I've been catching up on all the other games. I don't know if you saw any of this. This is actually the first World Cup for Turkey in a while. They
Yes.
have made several Euros and made noise at several Euros, but this is their first actual World Cup in a while. So this is exciting. They are always a great team to follow. I think they have some great talent, a top team, so an exciting team to watch. What were you saying, George?
The last time Turkey were at the World Cup was 2002 World Cup hosted by Korea, Japan. And if you remember, they got to the semifinals of that competition. They
I
were
do.
knocked. Yes, they got to the semifinals, and since then they've not been able to go to the World Cup. So it's a big plus for them since 2002 getting a spot is a good one for them and a big plus, which means they are only going to the World Cup after 24 years. So that's a good one for the Turkish team. And I hope they will get to the World Cup and put up a good performance.
Yeah, we'll see. It's awesome. It's great to see always fresh faces at the World Cup, and again, the atmosphere around Turkish games, I feel like, is always peak.
One,
George,
one,
what
one, thi-
about?
One thing about Turkey is you can't write them off because we saw what they did at the last Euros. Most times people underestimate what they can do, but they come to competition and they become a very hard nut to crack. So it's one team you shouldn't write off. They might get to the World Cup and they surprise a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to see that from them.
Yeah. All right, George. Let's talk about Roberto De Zerbi officially appointed as Tottenham manager. I'll give my thoughts real quick. I'll ask you yours. I think this is a poor from them. I think that De Zerbi is available. He would have been available in the summer as well. They have a huge problem in the next 7 games where they need to stay up. They need somebody to stay up, and they basically signed a contract that gives De Zerbi a lot of money if they don't stay up, and I think Serbia has to stay. So if they go down, which is very much a real possibility, this is going to look like an awful contract. I feel like this is very arrogant from their leadership, just assuming that they'll get through this relegation scrap when anybody who's watched this team can say, like, no, they're legitimately in a relegation scrap. And it will be very difficult for De Zerbi to turn around, even if they stay. But he's a good manager. I think that if they stay up, he'll do fine next season. But I think on the surface, this is almost overlooking the risk there in this season.
Honestly, Joe, when you look at the details of the contract, which is a 5 years contract, it's to me it looks like Tottenham were so desperate because if you are in this position and you are getting in a manager and signing a 5 years contract, it's a sign of desperation. I guess that's one of the things they had to do to convince Roberto De Zerbi to join them. I'm hoping that it works out because it's a big risk. Because if you sign such a lengthy contract and then at the end of the day you get relegated, I don't think it's going to be to their best interest. So it's a risk they've taken. Let's hope that risk works out. So that's what I'm hoping. De Zerbi is a very good manager. We saw what he did while he was coaching Brighton. We saw what he did at Marseille. He's a very good manager. But one thing the Tottenham management must do, they have to give him that support because the issue of discipline has to be addressed. And when it comes to the issue of recruitment, players that can fit into the system, players that have the quality, should be the players that should come into the
Yeah, but
Tottenham.
George, they've overpaid for mediocre players for years. They have 2 or 3 players who I think in a better environment could develop. But they have several players who are 50 million plus who aren't good enough and like make mistakes, and in a vacuum, here and there, you can handle that. But if you consistently do that for years, it's going to take consistent years of good signings to get out of that, to grow. And I feel like their board has not shown that they have grown as a club, as a board, and have learned from their mistakes. Liverpool had a similar problem when Fenway Sports Group started, where they made some bad signings and they overpaid for some players who probably weren't worth it. and they learned from their mistakes and they set it up and they said, all right, we're going to find a good partnership between actual people, scouts, and our data people. And Tottenham hasn't done that. They continue to sign overpay for mediocre at best players, players who are young and not hitting potential, who are not, a 20-year-old, no matter how good he is, unless he's Messi, is not going to lift a team in relegation out of relegation. And so it's just a very difficult situation for any coach to go through. There is a lot of talent in this squad, but again, the issue has been with listening, with discipline, and De Zerbi is is a very much an uphill battle.
No, I just hope that they will address those issues, the issue of transfer, because like you said, most times they overpay for players that are not, they don't even deserve that transfer fee. That's what you observe with most of the transfer strategy from Tottenham. So if they can take correction from that, make those adjustments, make those corrections, I think it's going to be to the best interest of the team and also the manager that has been appointed. Because if you don't address those issues of discipline, the issue of making the right recruitment, then even if you bring the best manager in the world, I don't think there's much that manager can do. I'm just hoping Tottenham doesn't get relegated. That's just
And
what I'm hoping for.
if they stay up, there's going to be some guys that need to leave this summer. I'm not dropping. I mean, Van de Ven maybe. I think Simmons probably. Like, these guys are talented guys who are undisciplined and lazy, and I feel like get in some guys who are work hard, even if they're less talented, even if they're older. Get them in there. You don't. I mean, yeah, it's just. In my opinion, and he's going to need board support in order to get rid of those guys. Like Pep Guardiola, his first season got rid of several aging stars who had discipline issues, and it was for this. And Barcelona wrecked everybody. I don't think Tottenham are 2 departures away from a treble, but they are a couple of departures away from a healthy club culture where hardworking players can grow, develop in a healthy atmosphere, which they do not have right now due to a couple bad apples. And so we'll see. Their management has, all their statements that I've read has said that they haven't really learned from their mistakes, but who really knows what's going on behind the scenes? And I don't feel sorry for them. I feel like they've reaped what they sowed, and the fans are the ones who suffer, and it's unfortunate. And I feel like this is, again, the parallels with Chelsea. It's like a Chelsea, except less quality in terms of their signings and their level. But it's very much a board and fans and management are in 3 different minds in terms of how they view this club. And I feel like it's causing tension. So we'll see how that plays out.
Well, we'll get to know if they've truly learned their lessons in the coming days. That will tell us if the board has learned their lesson or not. So time will tell.
Yeah. All right, George. Let's finish up with our final questions for the day. Number 1, Italy. What do you think went wrong? Do you feel like they would have won if it weren't for the red card? Do you feel like they were outplayed by Bosnia? Number 2, Denmark versus Czechia. What was your favorite moment of this game? What do you think went wrong for Denmark here? Do you think Roberto De Zerbi is going to save Tottenham from relegation? Do you feel like he's going to surpass expectations for this team? I think if he gets in the top half of the table in the Premier League next season, it is a miracle. I can't say I'm rooting for him, but it's interesting to watch as a neutral. Let us know your thoughts, and thank you for listening.
Joe, before we go, we need to congratulate DRC Congo for qualifying for the World Cup after 52 years. So that's quite a very good achievement for the country. So
yes,
I think that's it. So see you all. Bye.
All right, bye.